Hi, Deidre. Good morning. There he is, the man, the myth, the legend, Jason Abrams.
All right.
Thank you for getting up so early, buddy.
Here's to it.
Here's to it.
This is going to be one of those 16-hour days, as the calendar shows. So we'll see how we do.
I had one of those yesterday. I think I set my record for 9 Zoom calls yesterday.
Yeah, it's a lot, but it's important work.
Yes, it is.
Chris, your background is at your Fishtown office?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember when you opened it up. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Solon, good morning. Corey, Drew, Lauren, Val.
Good morning.
What's up, Val?
How are you?
Good. You know, I knew I had to change my virtual background because I knew which one you were going to use.
It's my favorite. I can't help it.
I love it. So we're going to get started in about 2 minutes.
Nice.
Jerry Wells, good morning. What's up, Jerry?
Hey, how's it going, Chris?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, man. Look at these backgrounds you have.
We're not playing games around here, man.
Oh, man.
Who on this call right now was on the call with Gary Keller yesterday?
I was.
I know Val, you were. Maria, I know definitely you were. So, did you guys see the recording come out yet of that?
I have not, but I have not checked my email this morning.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Is that Mickey Pascarella,
What's up?
the one and only?
Good morning.
What's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Hi, Teresa.
Hi, good morning.
Morning. All right. Jason, you there?
I sure am.
Awesome. Well, I want to welcome Jason Abrams, and you know it's 8 o'clock, so I like to be prompt and start on time. And I told Jason I promised him I would. And I'm not sure that you really need an introduction, but the VP of Industry owns a coaching company, mega agent, just an all-around amazing leader. I think you know him from a lot of his amazing videos that he does at KWRI. So without further ado, I want to welcome Jason Abrams to the call. And I really want to make the most out of this time because I know we only have a half hour together. And Jason, the one question I'm going to start off with is a lot of agents are coming to me with a lot of uncertainty right now. And, you know, what's one thing they could be doing right now that will directly affect them personally and professionally, like 30, 60, 90 days from now?
Hey, it's a great question. Let me ask you though, before we start, just so I know, what's the audience today? Because I don't know everybody. Is this mostly leadership, or are there agents with us? I just want to make sure I answer it the right way.
You got it, Jason. So we have mega agents with us, and then we have a few leaders with us as well from different market centers as well. So
Cool.
you have kind of a mixed bag of leaders and megas from all over the area.
Got it. So troublemakers all got together in one place. Okay, this is my kind of people. This is perfect. All right, so here's kind of the way that I think about this. In the absence of being able to capture market share, then you have to capture mind share. And usually you go after market share and then mind share follows, meaning you meet a customer that needs to do business and you do business and then they become a past client, you start to generate lead and on so. It's the opposite right now because you're just showing less houses and less people are taking action. So the mind share that you captured today ultimately carries the market share that you'll capture tomorrow. So then you look up and you say, okay, well, how do I do that? And it's twofold. There's a little feedback. Someone might want to go on mute.
Yeah, can everyone just mute their phones, please?
Oh, well, we go here.
Or mute their computers? Thank you.
Usually I use all these different backgrounds to demonstrate this, but I know we have people calling in, so I'm going to actually walk through it and explain it. There's two things that I would be doing, and I would be doing them in this order. Number one, I'd be cutting my expenses, both at business and at home. You cut expenses in order to survive. You then lead generate to thrive. Nothing new there. The misnomer, though, is that people think they're cutting their expenses because they can't afford to make their payments. And that doesn't feel good, but that's the complete wrong reason you're cutting your expenses. Top agents and owners like you guys, you're cutting your expenses because when we look up at the dichotomy of a balance sheet, we have expenses and we have investments. Expenses are the things you're going to spend to maintain continuity of home, continuity of life, or continuity of business. These are services or pieces of tech or whatever it is that it is. Investments are something you're going to demand at least a 4x return on. And here's what we know. We know that on the back end of whatever this is, there's going to be amazing investment opportunity. There always is. So every dollar that you have today is probably worth $4 to $6 within the next 6 months to 9 months, if you play it right, which means that I'm literally selling everything that isn't nailed, screwed, or bolted down. Like everything. I'm even liquidating some assets and taking losses in order to free up cash to then use. Because I think that when you have dry powder and you can put it to work, I think the deals are going to be amazing. And then that leads everyone to say, well, what are the deals? What are these verticals you're looking at? And I think you're going to see deals everywhere. I think you look at the stocks and bonds right now, and I think that there's some amazing deals. And candidly, the way that I look at that, it's relatively simplistic. I say, which companies have tied to behaviors that even if they let me use them tomorrow, I still wouldn't? Like for me, they could tell me tomorrow, you go see a concert. I'm still not going. So I'm betting against those companies on the index. Then I'm betting long on companies that I think that my 7-year-old is going to like when he's 16. I think those are the companies you can get at a really great discount right now.
Yeah.
Then I think you're going to see a lot of these corporate bonds. I think you're seeing yield rises. There's opportunity there. You're going to see deals in real estate. And I think those deals manifest with small apartment owners first. They always do after a natural disaster. Those 6 to 13 units, I think those are going to be great. I think then you start to see individuals that you can buy at housing, which is a good deal. And I like that. And then I really think the best deal is going to be with talent, meaning like I'm going to top grade the vast majority of the people in my world that need to be top graded during this, because you got 17 million people that didn't have a job in the last 15 days. Like that's never happened before. The greatest return you're always going to get is on a person. So like which hires were you going to make last year that you could make this year that would supercharge the business at a different rate? Those are the investments I'm talking about, but to get them, the capital you need isn't a right, it's a privilege, and you're going to have to cut expenses today. And I just use the same 3 buckets, right? Bucket number 1, that's everything that I absolutely need that I'm unwilling to turn off. That's continuity of life stuff. My MLS dues, my mortgage, my food, this stuff is, I'm not getting rid of it. Bucket number 2, the things that I prefer to have that I'm willing to live without. And bucket number 3, these are the things that I have just because I had a great decade and I'm getting rid of all of that stuff right now. The Peloton expense, the hotspot, my Sirius XM radio, all that stuff. I just don't need any of it and I want to reallocate those dollars. Once you have that in line, then you look up at number 2, which is, well, then how do I thrive? And I think that mega teams right now, the first thing you have to do is you have to lay out a new vision for the team. It's a 90-day vision. I don't think that your 5-year goal or your annual goal means a whole lot right now. You need to cast a 90-day vision for your company. Step 1. Step 2, I think you have to share that in a group with your people and make sure that you get group buy-in. Step 3, I think you then have to meet with each of your people individually and then agree on a new task list. The reality of it is whatever tasks they were doing will not line up with this new 90-day vision. And if you fail to cast one and you do the same thing, you're not going to make any money. Then I think you do a new 30, 60, 90 for every person in your life. I'm doing that. I know that sounds crazy and you're thinking 30, 60, 90 is new employees. No, it isn't. 30, 60, 90 is any time that you're going to pivot or change your business dramatically. Everyone that works for me has a new 30, 60, 90 right now. And if you're not clear on how to create one, it's just the big rocks, meaning I don't want to know everything. I want to know the 20%, what you're going to do that's going to matter in order for the firm to hit this new vision. And then I think you have to ramp up communication. You lost all your casual communication. Meaning, like, if you have people that work for you, all of your knowing whether to hit them or hug them because you're close, or looking them in the eye, or just seeing how they are, all that's gone. Because this Zoom thing ain't perfect. You got to ramp up then, like, the formal communication. Like, I'm literally doing 10-minute coaching calls with everyone that reports to me every single day. And I'm checking in on this 30, 60, 90 every day. And if it sounds like overkill, then so be it. I just learned in the last recession when I went through it, was that everybody settles into a new norm, and that new norm is based on a whole bunch of new things. And right now, everyone's home is the workplace and the church house and the schoolhouse and the outhouse. And I think there's just a lot going on in their lives, and I want to make sure that I'm getting the most from my investment into each of those people. Like, the goal is we still have to score touchdowns, and we still have to win the game.
Yeah.
Because of that, now you may have to change the cadence, meaning, like, the first couple minutes better be the Adele script. It better be, hello, how are you? Then we can get into it, and the end of it better be gratitude. And that's kind of my cadence right now with my people. And then you have to look up third, and you have to say, okay, well, in this new vision, is capturing mind share a part of it? And then how do we do that? And I think you need to use the socials to do it, meaning I think you need to be providing some must-see stuff for the people in your data bank. And I think that's interviewing people in your market. I think you interview a local nurse, you interview a local doctor. If you got a personal trainer in your data bank, I think you interview them, and you teach people how they can work out because they're at home. I'm not the only one overeating while I'm at home. I think then you get in there with the manicurists. Ladies, I guess you got this stuff on your nails. It's powder, and it takes like a construction crew to get it off or so. I don't know. But I think you get a manicurist on there giving advice to people on how to do it. I think you get a chef on there who maybe teaches people how to, like, freeze food more effectively. I think you do the interview so that you stay the fiduciary. And then I think it's vitally important that you make your people, your data bank's life better, meaning you have to be the president of your data bank right now, and you have to be giving some presidential addresses. You have to give the State of the Union, because here's what happens. We know this. We know that everybody looks up, and when they go into a new recession, they immediately think it's going to be like the last one. That's just how people's minds work. Mm-hmm. But we also know that that's patently absurd right now, because this recession wasn't started by mortgage-backed securities fraud. Like, your housing values are not dropping by 60 to 80%, but they don't know that. And so they watch the same thing happening on CNBC that they saw in 2008, and it's happening again. And they immediately think, oh my gosh, housing is next. It's the thing. And it isn't. And if you're not telling them that, though, then you're assuming that they know. And I think you've made a massive mistake there, because you guys represent the top in your marketplace. Understand there's some startups that are going to, and I call them ramp up realtors. There's the ramp up realtor that's going to capture mind share right now if you decide to not play the game, and they're going to be the ones that get the market share in the end. So I think you got to go all in on those things in that order.
Wow, great stuff. Yesterday on Gary's call, there was obviously a lot of ahas on that call yesterday. And there's two that stuck out to me in particular. One was, Gary said for the first year, from when he got out of college in 2019, he always made money. And he said this year, he's either going to break even or probably lose money, which I thought was really interesting. And then the second thing was, for those of us that are landlords or, have commercial buildings or landlords in general, that we're going to get hit the hardest. What's your viewpoint on those of us that may have rental properties or have commercial properties right now?
Well, I have a lot of both of those things. But I want to make a point. When Gary says this is the year I won't make any money or I'm going to lose money, I think that that's right. But if you take a step back, what he hasn't done is turned off the major streams and innovation that he thinks will carry him through the future. We still look at those dollars as investment, meaning like we're going to actually spend more to continue to build out technology, because we know there are technologists right now that got laid off. Like we're actually ramping up. Like, we use moments like this to bludgeon our competition to death. And I think that's healthy, by the way. I know that sounds crazy, but that's the idea, which is look up and decide what your assets are. And you should do the same thing in your business. What is your asset? And then the question every day is, how do I use that asset to bludgeon my competition to death? And I say that in a really positive way because I love them. And they've decided to compete against us, which means they're in for it. They're in a battle of attrition and they're going to lose. That's what happens to people that compete against us. So anyway, I want to be clear on that. Number two, if you're a landlord, a couple of things. If you're exposed to commercial real estate, I think you look at it differently than if you're exposed to residential real estate. Residential real estate, we know that there is going to be some interruption in rents. You're going to just have to weather that storm, but your lenders are willing to work with you, and you should probably get on the phone with them if you need it. The other thing is with residential real estate, the appreciation rate is slowed, but we haven't really seen a giant decline in those values, which means don't let the fact that you have a cash flow interruption change the way that you feel about your equity. The equity is probably still there, so don't make yourself crazy. On the commercial side, I think if you have light industrial or full industrial, I think you're actually in great shape. I think you're going to see a return to manufacturing, especially in the biotech sectors. And I think that you can be positioning some of your buildings for that now. I closed on a couple of biotech style buildings recently, and I'm doing extended air handling systems. I'm doing extended electronic systems. I'm doing greater capacity codes. Like I'm doing all those things because I think you're going to see a run on that. If you own buildings that are full of desks, so to speak, I think you got to look up and ask some questions. There's going to be a lot of people that come back from this that just realize they don't need this much space, they don't need this many desks, and they can do a lot of this from home. I also think that in general, businesses and Americans in general have like a memory of housefly. So like I think that that'll be the thing in a relatively condensed period of time, and then everyone will go back to the way it was. And you'll never get around walking into a space and knowing how that space makes you feel. Meaning people remember how they feel, not the words you say. People remember how they feel when they walk into their space. So if your space is not cool, or you haven't updated it, or it's drab, I think you're going to feel it even more. And what you might want to do is get ahead of it and announce that you're renovating and you're doing it in 2 years and start putting up artist renderings. Yeah. You can ride the old artist renderings for 2 years before people actually expect it to happen. Might buy you some more time. I think you also have to think about, and I'm sitting there, I got all of my blueprints together and all of my layouts for all of my buildings the other day. And I played the game, which is how do I break all of this space into smaller space? And then which of these spaces can I turn into, and I know what you're thinking. You're thinking there's so much more risk because you're going to have so many more tenants. Mm-hmm. Kinda. Like I'm going to spread out my risk over more tenants, and I'm going to be more diversified in the tenants that I choose. And so I'm looking up right now, get real clear. There's losers every day. They're identifying themselves in this market, but there's also some winners, and I'm identifying them, and I'm getting really proactive. Meaning I turned on the phones the other day on my team, and I said, I need you to start calling all of these businesses and finding out when their leases come up, because I'm going to take a run at every one of them.
It's awesome. We have about 15 minutes left, and I want to leave the 15 minutes open to anybody that has questions. If you could, please put them in the chat room. I know, Tori, you're going to be the moderator for it. So do we have any questions in the chat room right now?
There's nothing in here right now. Chris Summers just wanted to say he loves the mindset and intensity here.
Well, I'll tell you what, like, this is it. Yeah. Like if you're waiting, like, this is it. Like if you're being tested right now. And if you're waiting for something else, like this is the moment. This is the moment when talent needs to